guys, it's your girl Kabachi, aka Chelsea here, and this is the video that I promised you guys. So, you want to be an English teacher in Korea, do you? Do you? Do you? Well, I have some tips and tricks to share with you, and as well my story on how I became an English teacher here in South Korea. So, the first thing that I did was, well, I majored in English, but you don't have to be an English major in order to, actually teach. But it helps, obviously. My majors were in English and linguistics, so I was already quite qualified and prepared to teach over here. What they do require nowadays is preferably a degree in education or something as concentrated as English as a second language, ESL. It's more sought after, so of course if you are a theater major or some sort of philosophy or whatever major, and there's another candidate that is an actual education major and majored in education or something, then they'll probably take precedent over you. So now the next thing that I did is I also got my TEFL certification. I got my TEFL certification online, and that was a 120-hour course that I took through, I want to say, some school in the UK, some online school in the UK course, and approximately 6 months, or I started at about like the 6-month duration out from when I actually accepted my job offer and flew over here in order to teach. And that was just an additional level of I guess qualifications that I could put on my resume when I was applying for jobs here, because they like to see that you have in-class experience and also that you are somewhat familiar with how to run a classroom, how to keep the students organized, how to create lesson plans, etc. So I definitely recommend that you start that process before you even start applying for schools, because it takes about, if you do an accelerated course, something that's like only 120 credit hours or 120 hour certification, then you can knock that out in a month, which is what I did, and that wasn't that bad. And then that was when I had started looking into the process of applying for jobs over here in Korea. So while I was working on my certification, I was also, putting the steps in motion for getting, over here. And also it helps to have patience, because patience through this whole process is going to be key. Patience, 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 okay? Because patience is required for not only just, when you really want something really, really bad and you can't wait to move somewhere new and explore a new culture and to just start a new chapter in your life, just itching for, that new sense of adventure, and you have anxiety, which is what I had. We're all human, this is something that I had. But another added element where patience really becomes important is the actual process of whichever way you go through applying to get a job here. For me, I started off with applying through Qualifications. So Qualifications is so popular now. Everyone who's familiar with teaching here in Korea knows of Qualifications. Qualifications is a recruiting company that helps native English speakers from overseas who want to teach and have teaching jobs here in Korea. They help place them into public schools and some, private schools, some of them, and it's your preference. So in your application you check whether you want public or private school, and then you get matched with a recruiter, and that's the recruiter that you're going to be dealing with, sending all your paperwork through. They're going to be keeping you updated on the interviewing process, and that was the route that I took initially, okay? So I started my process with Qualifications in late summer, and I was going to apply for the upcoming spring term of 2017, this year, right? So this was last year in 2016 that I started all of this, and I was not prepared for how sluggish and how slow that process was going to take. I'm thinking, okay, get my initial application filled out and turned in online, and then I'll get my recruiter and we'll get that ball rolling and it'll be expedient. No, that was not the case. I did get, my recruiter quite quickly, but the process for paperwork, getting my initial interview was really long time. Also during that duration, they tell you to work on getting your criminal background check, as well as your letters of recommendation. I think you have to have 2 letters of recommendation from former employees or professors, depending if you're coming out of college. And also, you have to get your degree, so to show that you graduated from an accredited university, you have to get that apostilled. So all of these documents and all these things take time, and it took a while. It took about maybe 2.5 weeks for me to get everything together. Now, I was really on it. I was diligent. So even before I had reached out to Qualifications and started the process with Qualifications, I already knew, because I had did so much prior research, that I wanted to start the process with applying for my federal background check and getting my degrees apostilled and et cetera. So I had already kind of had those things waiting, coming to me in the mail. So by the time my Qualifications recruiter was asking for those, I was like, girl, I got you. I'm ready. Let me send these to you. And it made at least that part a little bit more expedient. And so once I got to the part where I was waiting for my initial interview, that was kind of tough, because it was almost 3.5 weeks, if not more than that I heard absolutely nothing. And you don't want to be a nuisance and nag and like email your recruiter and be like, so when is my interview appointment? Did you get any information back? When is my date? And they're inundated every cycle, every new cycle where they're, recruiting for new English teachers, inundated with so many candidates, so many people applying that want to come here and teach, that it's oversaturated. It really is. So there is no guarantee of a preference that you'll get for a certain location here in Korea. And with Korea, especially with public school, it's just a toss-up. It's a gamble, because nowadays there's no more high school and very few middle school positions left, so all of it is pretty much teaching elementary school level or kindergarten. And when they ask you to do your mock lesson plan, here's a tip. Do it for a young age group, so like 2nd grade class or elementary school level, because that's really what they're looking for. And if you do a lesson plan for like high school or middle school, then that's good. Hopefully you knocked it out the park, but they don't really place people anymore in high schools or in those grade levels. So it's best to better your chances that you do lesson plans for like younger kids, okay? Anyway, with me specifically, the reason why I did not continue my journey on with Korea is, while I was waiting in the process for receiving my time to get interviewed by Korea, to actually, get placed and whatnot, I was so impatient that I had already started reaching out to other recruiters to kind of help me get placed and get a job here. So I was doing, I was talking with my recruiter through Korea, waiting for that sort of appointment. And then also I had made appointments to interview with other recruiters that work on placing teachers here. Now, how I ended up getting my other recruiters is just literally going on Dave's ESL Cafe, Korea's Craigslist. I know that sounds super sketch, but trust me, there's so many job listings on there for English teachers, and just scouring other recruitment companies online on the web, and just putting all of my eggs in different baskets instead of in one basket with Korea, because I knew that if it didn't work out with Korea, if I didn't get placed in a good location, or if I didn't even get a job offer, then I would be so disappointed. And I was like, look, I'm trying to be in Korea by the start of next year, by 2017. So I needed to get that ball moving. Long story short, in a way, I ended up getting a recruiter that he was really, really amazing. He was very straightforward with me. He was like, what do you want, public or private school? And I told him I would be interested in private schools, actually, which are called hagwons, which, you know, if you are watching this video and you know anything about teachers in Korea, if you teach for public school, you kind of have better job security, but if you teach for a private school, a hagwon, it can kind of be a toss-up because you don't know if your hagwon's going to go bankrupt, or if you work for a really shitty hagwon and then you got a crappy boss or whatever the case may be. But my recruiter, he told me, he was like, you know, you get more options with the hagwons, as well as you be able to pick kind of like more of a specific location of where you want to be. So that was kind of interesting to me, and something I wanted, obviously, because I wanted to be near Seoul. Last time I was in Korea, I stayed in Seoul, and I was spoiled. I'm a city gal, what can I say? And so I was also open to the Gyeonggi-do region, which is like the suburbs outside of Seoul, which is not too far away from everything. And I had told him that, like, yeah, I would be open to it. So he put my name in some lots for different, you know, openings, and I had, you know, various interviews, maybe like 2 or 3. But then, like, my 4th interview was with an owner of a hagwon that was actually a good friend of my recruiter, and he could vouch for him. He told me, he says, you know, I have this friend, he owns a hagwon in Gwangju, the Gyeonggi-do Gwangju, not the other Gwangju in South Korea. And he told me that, he was like, yeah, you know, I think it would be a good opportunity for you to interview with him. He was really excited about interviewing with you, and you can see how it goes. So I did, and the interview went great. I thought it went really great, and I was nervous, but I was excited nervous, and my the owner of the hagwon was really, you know, casual and cool, and, you know, we talked and discussed everything that needed to be discussed. So maybe like the next day, my recruiter emailed me and was like, hey, you know what, you know, he wants to offer you the job. So I was like, sweet baby Jesus. I was so excited. I was on cloud 9 because I was thinking to myself, like, you know, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna get this job, and if, you know, this is gonna work out, because let's be honest, like, some places here in Korea hiring for English teachers from overseas, they prefer the blonde hair, blue eyes, sort of, you know, stereotypical looking person. And with me, you know, with my headshot on my resumes and sending those out to other schools, some of them, you know, quote unquote politely turn me down, but in the back of your head you're thinking, like, is it because I'm black? Is it because they see my skin color and they're thinking, like, oh, we don't know if we want to hire her, maybe we prefer, you know, different white teacher. But anyway, no, I got the job offer, and I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna accept. So I quickly emailed my recruiter back and told him, of course, I'm going to accept. And yeah, and ever since that point, that was when I pretty much kicked Korea to the curb, because they took Bye, Chloe. Sorry guys, one of my students was chilling with me. She got to school early, so she's just here hanging out. So because I had reached out to other recruiters and was also doing other job interviews, I no longer needed Korea. And ironically, around the same time I got the job offer from the hagwon, the school that I interviewed with, my recruiter with Korea sent me an email back and had said, hey, here's your interview date. So, you know, it would have been probably another 2.5 to 3 months if I would have stayed and waited with Korea. And that's not even promising me getting placed, you know. So I didn't want to wait that long. I didn't want to, you know, put all my hopes and dreams in Korea. And I'm not bashing Korea. Korea is a really reputable, really good, diligent, hardworking recruiting company that does the best to put the teachers where, you know, they're going to be in a good environment, a good school, and have a happy life here in Korea as best as possible, as best as they can. But that just wasn't the path for me. And, you know, like, we all have to follow, you know, where we're being led, and I wasn't led to continue at Qualifications, so I ended up just taking my chances with a regular recruiter and taking the Hagwon job. So now here I am, I'm in Korea, and I am actually so thankful that I did take this risk and accept a teaching position with the Hagwon, because my Hagwon is amazing. I love my students, I love my boss, my co-teachers. They're really awesome, really nice. They've treated me so kind and welcomed me in with open arms, accepted me as part of the family here, and you know, I haven't had really anything bad, no negative experiences, anything horrible to share, because you know, I'm an honest person. Like, I'll tell you if there's something that's going on that, you know, is sketchy or bad. I don't want to just be like here sugarcoating everything like, yeah, it's great, it's magical, oh, pixie dust and unicorns and rainbows, because you know, if shit was hitting the fan, then I'll tell you that shit was hitting the fan, but it's not. And you know, like I said, I'm just really blessed and I'm really thankful for that. Any other additional tips and advice I can add is to just have all of your documents and materials organized, stay organized, because when you do work with your recruiters, there's going to be different stages that they ask you for things, and you want to make sure you have those like either prepared and ready, or that they're already, you know, being sent to you in the mail. You maintain patience, because it's going to be a long process depending on if you go for like a large recruiting company such as Qualifications, and then also just waiting to get job interviews, waiting to hear back from certain schools and whatnot. So just have patience, try and stay encouraged, enthusiastic. So do your research, you know, decide whether or not public school is for you or private schools are for you, Hagwons, because you know, there's perks and cons to both of them, okay? Exercise those three things, and I think you'll be okay, you'll be fine. And with patience, guys, this is what I mean when I say patience. Like, I'm recording this video and my student is just walking in and out, you know, casually. I'm still having to exercise a great deal of patience, of course, being a teacher, working with children. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe for more, and in the future I'm going to hopefully make a couple of more videos pertaining to school life here, and more specifically Hagwon life, and I think that'll be interesting for you guys to kind of see. Alright guys, have a great day. Annyeong! While I was recording my video, you guys, this is what my student was drawing on the desk in front of me. She said, "Teacher, this is you. You look like this." I guess. I don't know.